Hi, Paul.
Hey guys.
Hi everyone.
Hello.
Hello, Anne. Hi, David.
Hi. Hi, Paul.
How are you, Anne?
Hi, Ross.
Good, thank you. Good,
That's
thank you.
good.
Hi, Terry.
That's
Is
a bit
that-
of shot of that's a bit of shot of you, David.
There's Bill.
Was
Bill
it?
Vaughan. Hey, Bill Vaughan.
Here he is.
He's
He's on, yes.
Can we hear you, Bill?
Yes, hello.
Okay.
Oh, I lost you again.
What's happening with the
There you are. Got you.
Sprite
Hello,
Club meeting tomorrow night? You haven't sent me the link.
No, I haven't. I will. Sorry about that, Terry. Hi, Barry. Good to see you.
Hey, Bill. Hey, how are you?
Good.
So are they confident, right, about Sandown?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
two.
Totally about Sandown, but
2 minutes, too.
we'll go back to the original rules we had back for July that was cancelled, which will be self-scrutineering, contactless entry. But it was only David and I and Richard that entered anyhow. So Richard's going to be Fred Flintstone if he brings the car. So just David and I. So
Right.
Well, I did ask Bruce if I could be towed around the track.
Okay, well, I think we might get started. Okay, everyone should be able to hear me. Welcome to the October General Meeting, courtesy of Zoom once again. At last, some light at the end of the tunnel. However, we will not be getting back to the club rooms this year, which is a great pity. There will not be a Christmas party this year. We are hopeful, though, of getting back to some normal events in the new year, and we'll be kicking off with our usual Natter Day in January. And we're very grateful to Merv and Jill George, who have invited us back to their magnificent place in Mount Martha. This will take place on Sunday, the 17th of January. And all being well, we'll be able to have our usual sausage sizzle barbecue back at the club rooms for our first meeting on Thursday, the 4th of February. That's the plan at this stage. As well, Gordon is fairly confident he'll be having his first Healey lunch on Thursday the 12th, which is just next week. But this will have to be confirmed during the week prior. So I think Gordon has got about 17 at the moment, have put their name down for it, but there will still be a last minute opportunity once we get confirmation, which will probably not be till Monday. So if you want to make the lunch next week, just watch the emails and hopefully that will happen. As well, the MSCA have their sprint meeting planned for Sunday, the 22nd of November, followed by 2 more events in December. So Rod can say something about that. Normally, we would be having our annual general meeting next month in December, but we have applied for permission to defer that for 3 months, and it will now, if we get permission, we haven't got it yet, but I think we're pretty confident we'll get it. It will mean that the annual general meeting will take place in March, when hopefully we'll be back in the club rooms proper. Tonight we have a video recorded by Eric Paterson's grandson to kick the night off, followed by another of Prue's excellent quizzes. Thank you, Prue. And then the highlight of the night will be the interview with world-renowned Healey expert Bill Emerson, who resides in Florida. Thanks for this must go to the 2 Bills, Bill Metcalf and Bill Ingham, who have arranged this for us. So it should be an interesting night. If anyone's got any apologies, you'll have to put your hand up and David will take note of them. Okay. You can mention it later anyway, if you like, if you've still got an apology. The minutes of the previous meeting, which were the 1st of October, as published in the club magazine, need to be accepted. So I need someone to wave their hand and say that they'll move it. Thank you, Gordon. Moved by Gordon, seconded by David Kisby. Thank you. Business arising, progress on the club room's wall repair. It has dragged a fair bit, but they're fairly certain that it will be completed by Christmas, and will certainly be all up and running for us when we go back there in February. The installation of the live streaming equipment is still going ahead, and I have put it off until the new year because of the building works going on the walls, and also the work that's going to go on in the bar area. Something put in so that the bar room can be locked off from the club rooms, because we have had trouble in the past with some of the people that are using the club rooms for meetings, and Chris has been concerned about grog that's been missing. So correspondence in and out, in or out is a letter to the Sprite Drivers Club, re the status of the past amalgamation discussions, and I'm hoping that we can get this progressed next year. The Sprite Club haven't really responded a great deal. I have sent them quite a bit of information about how it was discussed in the 86 or wherever it was discussed before, and I've told them how I think it can work, and I'm waiting for a reply. But they won't. I know that their committee meeting is not until next week, so hopefully I'll get some sort of response from them then. We sent a letter to the AHOC Queensland detailing the donations that we've made to the Healey Museum, and I'm really thank a lot of you that have donated to that. I mean, the club has donated $3,000, but we had an additional $1,750 from members added to that as well. So we've got very close to the $5,000, which I was hoping to achieve, and that will be combined with the donations from the other states, and it will go off to the Healey Museum in the next few weeks. Okay, the financial report has been presented, and it'll appear in the next edition of Hundreds and Thousands. Membership, I haven't seen any new members appear from Simon, so I presume it's the status quo. Social, as I've already mentioned, watch for Gordon's email next week. If the lunch is on, you will need to, as far as we know, there shouldn't be a problem with numbers, because we can have two separate areas when we go to Settlers Run where the lunch will be. But at any rate, you'll have to watch for Gordon's emails there. Editor Mandy has continued to produce a great magazine, and I'm thankful to her for that. Regalia, nothing happening. Competition, Rod, we've already sort of mentioned that Sandown will happen on the 22nd. Do you want to say anything else, Rod?
Well, not really. A committee meeting on Monday, Zoom meeting on Monday night, so I guess the final details will come through to us then. It's just that last easing of restrictions, there was permission from the government via Motorsport Australia to us that it will be going ahead, but it will be without spectators, minimum attendance, I would imagine. Yeah, and then, as I said, who was there before? I think it's only David, Kelly and myself, given that Richard Stevens...
Is David a competitor, or is he an official?
Yeah. No, a competitor. He's retired as an official.
Has he? Right.
Yeah. And... yes, we've got a couple of cars, Richard and Russell Baker's cars, but still dragging their rebuilds. And so we've got a 5th of December at Phillip Island and a 19th of December at Phillip Island. That one they're sharing with the Porsche Club. And the entries are open. I haven't bothered to enter yet until we make sure we can get out of Melbourne after next Sunday. So I guess I'll probably do both if Sue lets me. And it doesn't sound like Richard or Russell will be running, so we'll see. I'll keep an eye and see who goes, but I don't think there'll be spectators, but I've got my email list, so I'll let people know who normally come.
Okay, thank you, Rod. As I've said already, under Mick, there'll be no Christmas lunch in the club rooms this year. We are hopeful, though, of being back there in February at the club rooms. Communications from Alex, I don't think there's anything. Cams haven't had any meetings, so there's nothing to say there. The club rooms we've talked about. Vic Roads, Brian has been putting the latest changes as they come through. Brian, did you want to say anything?
Not really. I think it's published in the magazine. The most significant change in October is that you now have to pay $38 for your first issue of plates. That's a one-off charge when you first get your new plates. Other than that, there's nothing really terribly new.
Okay, thanks, Brian.
It's Selwyn. Can I just add something to what Rod was saying? You may or may not be aware, but a while back MSCA were having some real problems with flag marshals. And without getting into the detail of that, they made a decision to get their own flag marshals, and they've got together a full bunch of people. The training session on next 12th is to finish off those flag marshals to get them ready for their first ever MSCA meeting. Now, these people are all new to flag marshalling, but they've had some good training. The Porsche Club have been very, very helpful because the MSCA have done them a few favours along the way. So there's been a great camaraderie between clubs there. We've got some officials, and this works okay. It'll be much better than what we used to have to put up with the other flag marshals. So well done to MSCA. Ken Price has put in an enormous amount of work on this, and it looks like it'll work for everybody. So Rod, you'll be in good hands when you're out there, mate.
Okay, thanks, Owen. The trivia session we have slotted in there, so maybe we can do that, and then you can write your answers down, and you'll get the answers after we've done the other presentations. So can I hand over to you, Prue, to do the quiz?
I introduced the famous teenagers in a previous quiz, but so now the teenagers are grown up.
We've got to pick who they are, do we?
You wait and see.
Okay, thank you, Prue.
We talk about your grandma down in Alabama. We talk about you guys of every shape and size. I want you to despise and I want you idolize. We talk about your heart, about your brains and your smarts and your medical charts and when you start. You know talking about you makes me angry. But every now and then, I want to talk about me, want to talk about I, want to talk about number one. Oh my, me, my, what I think, what I like, what I know, what I want, what I see. I like talking about you usually, but occasionally I want to talk about me. 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 Want to talk about I. Want to talk about number one. Oh my, me, my, what I think, what I like, what I know, what I want, what I see. I like talking about you usually, but occasionally I want to talk about me. I want to talk about me. The man with the foolish grin is keeping perfectly still. But nobody wants to know him. They can see that he's just a fool. And he never gives an answer, but the fool comes on the hill. Sees the sun go down, and the eyes in his head see the world spinning round. His way, his head in a cloud. The man of a thousand voices talking perfectly loud. But nobody ever hears him on the sounds he appears to make. And he never seems to notice that the fool sees the sun going down, and the eyes in his head see the world spinning round. And nobody seems to like him. They can take all he wants to do. And he never shows his feelings, but the fool on the hill sees the sun go down, and the eyes in his head see the world spinning
Thank you, Prue. That's pretty hard tonight.
Yeah, yeah, probably a bit tricky.
And the champion's not here either.
Who's that, Enid?
Yeah,
Yes, that's right.
she's given us all a chance. Thank you for that, Prue. We'll get the answers later on.
Okay.
We will, I'll now ask Gordon to put on the presentation by Eric Paterson's grandson. I haven't seen this myself, so.
When people think of old sports cars, they think of old Ferraris and old Mercedes, Italian and German cars. But it's about time people learn a bit more about old British sports cars. Of course, there's been the Aston Martin DB4, the Morgan Plus 4, and the AC Ace. But also, one of the most beautiful vintage sports cars Britain has ever produced, the Austin Healey. And to tell you the truth, she's a real looker. Now, before we get into talking about this car, we need to learn a bit more about the history of the Healey brand. This is a car where style and power were combined. It all started with a man named Donald Healey. He always had an interest in cars and participated in a few races at Monte Carlo. However, when World War II broke out, Donald took cover and began making plans for a car of his own. He was planning to take his plans to Triumph at the end of the war. However, during the war, Triumph began making aeroplane parts so they were no longer in the car industry, so they weren't able to help Donald. So he bought an old aeroplane hangar and started building the cars himself, and in just a year he was off to America on a sales trip. Here they got a lot of interest in Healeys, and production ramped up. Now that we've got a bit of the history down pat, let's talk about the car. So it's a 6-cylinder engine with a 4-speed gearbox and overdrive on 3rd and 4th, developing around 160 brake horsepower. But it's the fine detail that makes this car stand out to others. For instance, the wheels have 60 spokes each. The car has a twin 2-inch SU carburetor and 6 performance extractors. Another thing that makes this car great is it's a convertible. It's 2 doors and it's red. Top speed? Well, Stig says he's got it up to 115 miles per hour. The one thing we know for sure is it's fast. Now to test this car we need our tame racing driver. Some say he invented Christmas pudding. All we know is he's not the Stig, he's the Stig's elderly cousin.
This is Radio Freedom.
If you're keen to see this Healey and many other Healeys in the flesh, the Geelong Revival Festival down at Eastern Beach is a good spot to see them. The Stig has agreed to show us how he attacks the quarter-mile sprint.
This is about the point where the lady will drop the flag. You get your revs up. There we go. And off you go. Pass round this corner, which is a bit tricky. Continuing down here, changing from 2nd to 3rd, doing about 85 miles an hour. Change into overdrive 3rd. And just past the traffic lights is the end of the quarter-mile sprint. Hopefully achieved in somewhere around 15 seconds.
That's very good to hear. Over the years, have you seen a difference in the type of cars that come to this event and participate?
Yes. Some of the modern cars compete on the Saturday. That's all the Falcon GTs and Commodores, the hot ones, some of the rally cars. But on the Sunday, it's always for the historic and racing cars and sports cars like this. It's a really great atmosphere and it's just absolutely terrific for Geelong. There's somebody up here that's going to greet us. See if you can get a shot of this spectator. Now that particular bollard's interesting because it's of a fellow who belonged to a motorbike gang down here. The pits are over here on the left, so you get all colour and excitement with people working on their cars. And then, can you see these couple of people on bollards here?
To learn more about this Healey and the mystery man himself, Pop Stig, we needed to see inside his garage.
I saw a werewolf with a Chinese menu in his hand, walking through the streets of Soho in the rain. Looking for the place called Lee Ho Fooks. Gonna get a big dish of beef chow mein. Werewolves of London.
Hello Pop and welcome to this Austin Healey interview. Thanks for joining us today. How many Healeys have you owned?
Well, Tom, I've had 2 Healeys. The first one was a 4-cylinder car that finished up restored, and it was white with red upholstery. That was a 1954 model. And then some years later, in the early 1980s, I had a chance to buy this red 3000. It came from California and was imported to Adelaide.
What makes Healey special to you?
Well, I've always liked the lines, the long bonnet, the long mudguard, the rakish windscreens, the wheels, everything about them appeals to me, and they're pretty fast.
What is the most enjoyable trip you've been on in your Healey and why?
Well, I've had two really wonderful trips. One to America in 2017, and we shipped the cars to Oakland in California, then drove right up the west coast to Canada, and then back down to Monterey for an American Healey rally. There's a group of us that had a lot of fun with that. And then last year, the same group, we went across the Nullarbor to Perth, and then we went to Broome, Darwin, Alice Springs, and all the way home. And that was about 15,000 k's, and that was really, really terrific.
What is it like being in the Healey Club?
I've got a lot of friends and made a lot of friends because I've joined the Healey Club 35 years ago. They're a good bunch of people and we get to do lots of interesting things.
How fast have you driven your Healey and what is your favourite track?
Well, officially on a track at Phillip Island, the car was recorded as about 112, 115 miles an hour.
And how much is that in the kilometres an hour?
Oh, as far as the police are concerned, it's just under 100 k's, Tom.
What is it you like about Phillip Island?
Well, it's a track that the Healey is really suited to. It's got long straights, big sweeping corners, a couple of sharp bends, and you can really wind the Healey up in overdrive top. It's pretty challenging, but it's also a lot of fun to go fast and get around the circuit as quickly as you can.
So what's the story behind some of these posters?
Well, Tom, I tried to get a poster at each of the circuits that I competed at. You can see Sandown, Phillip Island, a couple of hill climbs at Arthur's Seat. And it was all very good because there was a group of 5 of us and we'd take our cars, our Austin Healeys, and compete against one another. The Phillip Island posters represent the events that were conducted in 96, 97, 98, 99, and then Sandown again in 96, and a couple down here of the Arthur's Seat hill climb. That was a lot of fun. It was a closed road circuit. The unfortunate problem, each year we went, it rained and everybody had a lot of trouble controlling their cars up the hill. The Monterey poster was acquired by one of my mates. It's unofficially made its way to Australia in his luggage and he presented it to me when we got home. But that was a wonderful event.
Cars from all over the world?
Yes, yeah, they had 250 Healeys from mainly America, but a few Europeans that turned up as well. But there were 23 Australian cars there for the event. That was quite impressive. Now the Phillip Island poster is one that was painted by Gay Dutton, and her husband has a very impressive car showroom in Richmond. But the Healeys were involved in an all-Healey race on this occasion in '92. There was 30 odd cars and we had a lot of fun. It included a Le Mans start where we raced across the track, jumped in the cars, started them and then went off.
So where was this car manufactured and how did it end up in your garage?
Well, mate, the car originally came from England and it went as a left-hand drive car and it was registered and run in California all its life until I bought it in 1982, I think it was. And then it was converted to right-hand drive over in Adelaide, registered in Victoria, and now it's here in Drumcondra, Geelong. The cool thing about this car and the last big trip, including the one to America, was that the car actually went back to the state of America that it was originally shipped from England in 1966.
So I hear you're a regular competitor at the Geelong Speed Trials.
Well, I certainly have been, mate. Probably 20 odd years. The car with the new engine is very quick now, and I do quite well in my class. But it's a very good event, and it's very good for Geelong too.
So tell us the history of the restoration of this Healey of yours.
Well, when the car arrived in Australia, it was a bit of a mess. It needed a total restoration from the chassis, all the mechanicals, the bodywork, the paint, the upholstery, before we could get it roadworthy in Victoria. So it was extensively restored over a period of time, and it was money well spent because BJ8s, this particular model, were very hard to get in Australia at that time.
So there you have it, the best car from 1966 and the best driver from 1945. But more importantly, this is a car that will be driven for generations to come.
Well, what a presentation. That was really good. I mean, to think that Eric's grandson has done most of that, and just shows you what you can do. So I want everyone to talk to their grandsons and see if they can produce something like that. That was really good. I don't think Eric is on here tonight, but in any case, yes, Bill?
It should be noted that Eric's grandson Tom is 13 years of age, and it was his school project for this year, and that's why he did it on the Healeys. Did a really good job, I thought, too.
Yeah.
For a 13-year-old.
No, it was excellent. Really good. Okay. Our presentation, our main presentation tonight was organised by Bill Ingham and Bill Metcalf, and it's an interview with Bill Emerson, who is a very well-known Healey enthusiast in America, and he has written at least one book that I know of, and he has he lives in Florida. So I'll pass over to Gordon to put on the presentation of the interview of Bill Emerson.
Bill Emerson, welcome to our Zoom meeting for the Austin Healey Club of Victoria. And we thank you very much for doing this interview for us. I'll get Gordon to bring up photo number 1, Bill.
Okay, it turns out that I can actually see in the corner of the screen now what is being shown, so that's good.
So here's the photo number 1. Bill Emerson and his 101-year-old friend skiing in Utah.
Okay, that's good.
Yep. Now photo number 2, please, Gordon. This is at NASA, I believe. Is that correct?
No, this is a United States Air Force tracking station on Kodiak Island, Alaska. And the fellow on the extreme right of that picture is sending the command to the satellite and brought the first object back to Earth that had been in orbit.
Amazing, amazing. What was your role in this, Bill?
I was a computer person, a telemetry person, and later as a supervisor. I moved from there to being in charge of the whole thing at a much larger tracking station. Kodiak had 29 people. I was in charge of New Hampshire, and I had 60 people on my crew, and there were 3 crews. So it's a great deal more complex.
It must have been pretty cold up there.
It was. The gold bucket was film that was recovered from space, and it's the first time that had been done. This is now on display in the United States Air Force Museum in Dayton, Ohio. And I'm up there. I just donated some material to the museum.
Okay.
From here, I went off and actually built a satellite. And if you look at the next photo, there are 3 of us. I'm in the middle. You may not recognize me. I don't have a beard and I have hair. So it's sort of a transfer from up here to down here with age. But that is S-55, a micrometeoroid satellite that was successfully launched in November of 1964. 5 days later, I got a telephone call asking me if I would go to Houston. But if you show the next picture, this is a picture of a young Bill Emerson at Wallops Island in Virginia with a scout in the background. The next picture will show you what the satellite looks like. The very upper portion of that photograph is where the S-55 satellite is launched from. That whole thing goes straight up in the air to 600 kilometers and then goes around the Earth a lot of times. But from there, I went to NASA Houston, where I was asked to fly the unmanned Agena satellite for the first rendezvous in space. The next picture will show you our training manual. And we were at the beginning, and it turned up that I went through training on the Gemini capsule with the second generation of astronauts. And then the second generation of astronauts came in to where we were getting trained on the Agena. So I knew about their spacecraft, and they knew about my spacecraft. And there were 6 of us that were chosen to go around the world and fly the Agena. And the next picture shows you a model of the Gemini and the Agena, and there's an astronaut who went over there and hooked up a cable to the Agena, and that combination set the highest manned orbit until we went to the moon of 800 miles high. So after that, I did a number of other things with the space. I worked for the Japanese Space Agency, and when I came back from there is when I began to play with the Austin Healeys. You'll show the next picture. This is a portrait that I had commissioned of Donald Healey. And the woman that did the portrait came over to the house and finished it. And she and Donald drank a great deal of scotch and laughed a lot while they were finishing the painting. He was a heck of a good guy and a lot of fun to be around.
What type of scotch was it, Bill?
Whatever the liquor store said was really good, because I'm a bourbon drinker.
So that was in 1977?
1977.
Yeah.
Now this is a picture with a good story. I went to a car show called the Orphan Cars, meaning they aren't made anymore. And in amongst a group of Nash Metropolitans was this Austin Healey Sprite. And I went up to the fellow and I said, "Is that a prototype for these little Nashes?" And he, very flustered, told me, no, it was not. It was an Austin Healey, and he wanted to sell it. And I explained to him that I would like to buy it. At the end of summer, he would drive it in the summer, and I would take it at the end of summer. We made a deal. I went over, I picked up the car, drove it back to California, or to the other part of California. Donald Healey was my house guest. I asked Donald to step outside so we could get a picture of the car. I had it blown up and sent it to the man who I bought the car from in a plain brown envelope. And Donald had signed the photograph, and the man was just ecstatic. But my first Austin Healey was the next picture.
This was
This is the
100S.
100M,
Oh, yep.
but it's a very, very early one. And I did the full restoration on it. I got it as a race car out of Canada. It's right-hand drive, and it has the full 100M equipment on it. Donald, again, was my house guest, just a little bit different time. And he said, well, let's do this one like one of the really nice production cars. So if we turn to the next picture, we'll take a look at the inside of it. And we can see it's completely done. And there's leather on the dashboard, leather on the cockpit surrounds, 140 mile an hour speedometer. It was just a gorgeous car to drive. Next picture.
Before we go further, how long did it take you to do the restoration on this, Bill?
2 years. Now you'll notice that the motor is obviously the wrong color. And I had it in a restoration shop and I told them, no, that's the right color. And they said, we won't give you the engine in that color. And I wrote to Donald, and Donald Healey sent them a letter and said, that is the right color of that engine. It was done by Eddie Mayer in the DMC competition for my son to use in competition. Paint it red. That car is now about 5 kilometers away from the Healey Museum in the Netherlands.
Okay. Is it to them on loan or?
No, it's owned by a private owner in the Netherlands. It originally went to Australia and went into a museum, was sold out of Australia to England, and then from England to the Netherlands. Now the next picture, I happen to do a lot of model cars. And here we can see on the right-hand side, well, we'll have to see, Donald Healey, Carol Shelby, my wife Betty and I, and in front of Carol Shelby is the model of the car that Donald went 200 miles an hour on. And I gave that to him as his birthday present for his 85th birthday.
That's
now
let's talk
a little bit about some cars in Australia. Next picture, please.
Before we go, how did you meet Carol Shelby?
The club wanted to have a birthday party for Donald. Donald said, I'm 85 years old. I don't need a big party. I'd like to have dinner at Chez Melange, just you, Betty, and Carol Shelby. I didn't know Carol Shelby. So I started making phone calls, and I finally got through to his gatekeeper. And I said, Mr. Healey would like to have Mr. Shelby at his birthday party, just a private party at a restaurant in Los Angeles. An hour later, there was this big Texas voice came on, and what restaurant and what time?
Ah, fantastic, fantastic. He must have been some guy.
Absolutely. He and Donald got talking about racing for the speed runs out in Utah, and I had to ask my wife to go into the other room because it was getting pretty racy. Yep. Now, this is what happens if you take a car that's partially restored and they tell you you have to wait 2 years to get it into restoration in the United States. But there's a fellow that some of you guys probably know named Steve Pipe, who said, if you bring it down here, I'll put it in the front of the queue. So I went down there, and I knew that Steve was a great guy on 100Ss, and I knew he had never seen a Westland. And I thought the only way I'm going to make sure it's done right is if I'm there. So I moved to Melbourne. And every day I went out to Bacchus Marsh to sweep the floor, to use the sandblaster, to go do odd jobs, get the sandwiches for lunch. And at the end of the week, instead of getting a paycheck, I gave Steve money for what work had been done that week. You'll notice that I'm holding a very large trophy. That is the British Car Show in Stowe, Vermont. 800 British cars and the Westland won Best of Show. Let's go to the next picture.
Just before we do, while we're looking at that photo, I forgot to ask you how you met Donald Healey.
I met him at a car show, and instead of talking about cars, I talked about radios and said that there was a radio museum. Would he be interested in seeing it? And he said, oh, yes, but I'm really interested in these new personal computers. Do you know anyone who has one? And I said, yeah, I have 3 of them at my house. And he said, can we go to your house? And we became fast friends right then and there. He stayed with me every summer for about 5 years.
All right, now we've got the next photo up, Bill.
Okay, this one took me 8 years to do. This car had never been anything but a race car, and I turned it into being a show car. It turns up its number is E69, and it's an E-type Silverstone. I was very, very fortunate in that the president of the Healey Club in England has Silverstone E70, 1 car away, and it has never had a wrench on it. I shot hundreds of photographs of that car and then used those in making sure that this Silverstone was perfect. And I'm right there, I'm being awarded the Amelia Award. It's the 2nd largest show in the United States. Pebble Beach is first, Amelia is second, and I won the Amelia Award with the Silverstone. And it drove beautifully. I took it and showed it all over the United States. Let's go to a left-hand drive car. The next picture, that is a 1954 Nash Healey, and that is in front of the palace at Versailles in France. For Donald's 100th birthday, I took that car to England, and it won Best of Show in England at his 100th birthday. Then I took it over to the continent and took it to Luxembourg for the first European meet. Now, Donald and I did this car together, and I'd like to show you the next picture. Not often you see a V8 Healey in a Nash Healey. That is dynoed 425 horsepower going through a turbo 400 transmission, a Ford Locker 9-inch rear end. But the outside of the car is absolutely stock.
What type of carburetor did it have on it, Bill?
Had a 750 Healey on it.
What was it like to drive?
Well, the next picture will tell you what it's like to drive. It's in front of everyone else. It is going up the hill at Eau Rouge at the Spa racetrack, and I got about 135 miles an hour on the track with that car. And I still had room. I was only running around 4,000 RPM. Okay, that was fun and great car to drive. Now, this is another one of my Nash Healeys, and this one is totally stock. And the gentleman that's there is our friend Donald Healey, who thought he liked the color on that one. So I have 1 red and 1 green, so it's Christmas time. Okay, next one.
So did you do much work on that other one, the green one?
I did almost no work on that. I bought it in Los Angeles and drove it about 4,000 or 5,000 miles without ever touching it. This is a chicken coop find. It actually was in a chicken coop, and the gentleman that owned it, he was the president of the Healey Club, and he would tell people that he would sell it, and then he would always price it out of their market. Well, there was a very good mechanic who was a lot of fun. He was a friend of mine and a friend of Donald's, who doesn't have 2 nickels to pump together. And I said, here's money, you go buy the car. It's yours for the first year. It's ours the second year, and it's mine the third year. And take somebody with you, park the trailer where they can't see it, and make the deal. Well, he came back, and he called me up, and he said, well, I got the deal, but the owner said, well, I won't have a car to drive to the Healey meet in 2 months. Now, picture this, it's all, the 100S was all disassembled in a chicken coop. There's no way you could ever get it together in 2 months. So Dick Santana, my friend, said, you know that beautiful green Sprite I have? It's yours. So I bought on that day a 100S and a green Sprite, but I had a lot of fun with it. And the next picture will show me having fun.
Right.
I did the Carrera Panamericana in Mexico and beat all of Jaguars and all of the Ferraris going across the Baja California on mountain roads and deserts. I raced that car all over the place for about 13 years. And it is now in the Healey Museum in the Netherlands.
Well, did you have a natural instinct for driving?
I've been racing since I was 16 years old. The last time I was in a true race car was I did Formula Ford at 74 years old. Okay, next picture. This is an Austin Healey Sprite with an Italian body. They made about 400 of these. It's called an Innocenta.
Yep.
And I restored this one. I bought it in Italy, shipped it to the States, restored it, then took it back to England and up to Sweden for the meet in Sweden, then drove it down here, and that's the Moselle River in the background. I put 6,000 miles on the car before I brought it back home.
Oh,
no problems at all.
It's really strange, but I was in Italy a few years ago, and I actually come across one of these, and I was just gobsmacked with it. I couldn't believe it. And anyway, the guy must have been in a restaurant close by or a cafe close by, because you could see I was all over it. And he said, "What do you want to know? What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm just amazed with this car." And he said, and then he told me the story about it as well. And he said, "Well, what's your interest?" I said, "I'm an Austin Healey owner." But I said, "I've never, ever seen one of these." So that was quite interesting and amazing that you had one as well.
I had the only one that was in the United States, the only coupe. There were a couple of the convertibles, but this was the only coupe. Now the next picture is another variation, and this is a WSM, stands for Wilson, Spratt, and McManus. And Douglas Wilson Spratt was an English racer who got one of the Sprites before they were announced, and Donald gave it to him to go out and drive at night where nobody could see it. And on the first day that Sprites were announced, he had it on a racetrack and won the race. So on the first day a Sprite was out was the first day it won a race. And Douglas rolled that car a few years later and designed this body and had it beaten out in aluminum. And this is a fiberglass replica that his son has done, but it has the old Sprite parts in it. And I took this as at a show in Palm Beach. You'll notice in the background there's a scarab, and there is the award that I got, the PGA award, because it was at the PGA golf course.
What did Betty think about your award?
She liked the awards. And the next picture is Moss Motors has a special museum in Virginia. And you'll notice that the Healey Westland is in the far end, 100S, and then the WSM. And those were the lead cars coming into the announcements of the award winners for about 3 years ago. Now, that little car there, I'm going to show you the next picture. There are 3 cars in this picture. And the fellow that's been handling the camera work here was with me on this trip and many others. His name is Ron Fitch. On the one side, we can see the WSM. At the end of this trip, this is in Akron, Ohio. At the end of that trip, that car had done 5,000 miles going to and from shows and just being driven. The first outing, Ron and I drove it 800 miles up and 800 miles back during a downpour on the way up, back roads on the way back. So I love to drive my cars. The second car is Goldie. And Goldie is the Earl's Court show from 1957 or 58, where all of the chrome is now 24 karat gold. The last car, the maroon convertible over there is Nash Healey #1. And I was very fortunate to do the overseeing of the restoration of that car here in Florida, about 150 miles from my house. And I visited it about every 2 weeks for over a year. And it sold for $500,000. At the show, right after this picture was taken, a man walked up to the car and said, "I'd like to buy your car." And the owner said offhandedly, "Well, I'll sell it for $750,000. The man wrote him a check. So if you're in the right place and the right man wants your car, Nash Healey's really a good buy. Now, you asked me about some of my foreign cars. This is a 1957 Pastel Vega HK 500 that was in the New York Automobile Show. This was my daily driver when I lived in New Hampshire and in Texas and in Virginia. And I even took it skiing. So this has been driven in the snow, in the rain, and in the desert down in Texas. But of all the cars that I've had, the one that I really would like to still have is the next car. That's a 300 SL Roadster, 1957. There's never been another car that drove like that. It was fantastic. Great, great car.
And you had a Cadillac, a coupe Cadillac as well?
I had a 29 Cadillac. I had a couple of Rolls Royces. The first year Mustang, a Monza Corvair, some other fun cars.
Now, this Healey book, you wrote it and had it published, is that correct?
Well, I did all of the writing in it, and I did about 25% of the photography, but I learned a heck of a lot about photography from William Taylor, who was a London photographer. It's a labor of love, sort of my tribute to my friend Donald Healey.
And so is this book still available, Bill?
It is, and if you go online, www.historichealys.com, you can buy it. Or you can buy it on Amazon.
How much research did you do on the book itself?
I had been researching for years because that's what I like to do. I had a large number of, well, you can see behind me, there's a lot of library. I'm also still involved in the clubs. This is Jerry Coker. Of course, we all know him because he's the designer of the original Austin Healey 100, or the Healey 100, or the Austin Healey as it was after the show opened. Jerry's a friend of mine. In fact, I had lunch with him 2 weeks ago. We got talking about recognition for the 100 itself. I came up with the idea of having a bronze 100 and writing some nice words. And I said, would you like to work on the trophy? And that is the Jerry Coker Trophy. It has been awarded to people in the United States, people in Canada. Joe Jurek from Australia has won it. Someone from Switzerland has won it. Someone from the Netherlands has won it. Someone from England has won it. And it is only open to 100, 100M, and 100S owners. So that was a lot of fun. Noticed by some of my cars, I like to show my car. And I have belonged to the Austin Healey Club of America. And I won the Best of Show 3 times. And each time I won, they gave me an award that was exactly the same as I got for winning the class, except instead of saying class winner, it said Best of Show. Well, I thought this was a little bit ridiculous because somebody who wins Best of Show has really put a lot of effort into it. So I designed and have made a Best of Show that shows the Best of Show winners for the Austin Healey Club of America from its inception in 1976. And it's designed to, the last one will be 2036, or 50 years of winners on one trophy. There's the plaque, and it says that it's the Austin Healey Club of America, the Healey book, Best of Show, and it talks about it, and you can see the name of the car is at the top, then the owner, and then the club that they belong to.
The Austin Healey Club of America, Bill, do they have a lot of members?
They have over 3,000 members. Now, there's also another club, Austin Healey Club USA, which used to be almost the same size, but has gone down in size. It still exists, but not as many members.
And would you know what the average age of those members would be in both the clubs?
My friend Ron over here behind the camera is chuckling because he is 80 and I am 85, and most of our members are in their 70s plus.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. Yeah, that's quite interesting. Do you think that the younger people are becoming interested in the Healeys, or are they looking for more exotic?
Let me answer that question in just a minute.
Okay.
First, I'd like to go to the next picture. I build and collect model cars. And here you can see a close-up of the last 5 cars that Healey raced at Le Mans. And if you go to the next picture, here they are, all 28 of the Healeys that raced at Le Mans with a background of the pits at Le Mans on display in the Healey Museum in the Netherlands, right about 15 minutes outside of Amsterdam. And for any of you people over there in Australia, if you are heading up that way, please drop into the museum. You will absolutely love it. Now, you asked about what do you do about the young people with the Healeys. Let's go to the next picture. This is my son at age 2. He is out there next to the engine on my 1929 Cadillac. A few days after this picture was taken, he decided that the engine would look very nice in red and got a can of red spray paint and painted it. He lived through it, but I wasn't sure I was going to.
You can't stop enthusiasm, can you?
No, let's see what happens when they get a little bit older, though. Here he is, and you can see that he's gone over to the bad side. He's gone over to a Corvette, and that was his Christmas present. But we tried to get him into the idea that maybe these Healeys were pretty good. And I think everybody, if you expose your children or your grandchildren to the Healeys, you'll have what we have at the next picture. That is my son as a sophomore in college with Donald Healey in a Sprite that he restored himself. So I think if we can get the young people, the children and the grandchildren started, I see more of the young people go to Sprites than they go to the big Healeys. They can't afford a big Healey as a starter, but they can afford a Sprite. As they mature, then they can get the big Healey. Let me tell you another quick story. Donald Healey was visiting me, and I was in the Austin Healey Club USA, and they did not allow Sprite. Now, one of Donald's other friends is Dick Santana, and Dick Santana had a yellow Sprite. And Donald said, "Why don't you let the Sprites come in?" And I said, "Well, it's not in the club bylaws. And Donald said, "Well, I would certainly like to see the Sprites at the next Healey meet." And so the Sprites showed up in mass. They changed the bylaws, and now we have one Healey club with big Sprites and little Sprites, and we all have a good time together. Now, if time permits, and I don't know how we did on time, I'd like to take the camera and go in the other room and show you just a little bit of some Healey memorabilia. John, can you come in a little bit closer, please? If we get in a little bit closer, yeah. That is the same number as I raced when I was running the Carrera Panamericana.
Yep.
And we can see it is signed by Carroll Shelby.
What a great thing to have.
Right here, I have one that is signed by Phil Hill. And up here, I have one that's signed by Juan Manuel Fangio. Now, the Healey Museum is trying to get a collection of badges. And this is my collection of badges. They have all the ones that I have here, But if there are any special badges over in Australia that maybe aren't in the museum, it would be nice to get one going along with badges and things. And finally, thanks to my friend Ron, who is running the camera, we have a real Thor hammer. And so if you want to start this end, Ron, we can start over here. All right. We can start over here with a 1939 Bugatti. Then we have a Mercedes-Benz that was driven by Caracciola. Then we have a Maserati with Juan Manuel Fangio. Then we have Jimmy Clark. Then we have Niki Lauda. Then we have Rene Arnaud and Senta. And then in the back, Mika Hakkinen. No, these are Fossil Vegas down on the lower part. And up here we have a Tickford, Donald Healey's Coupe, Healey. Thing with Healey theme. You can see right here, we have a Westland, an Elliott, a Silverstone, a Nash Healey race car. This is a 53, this is a 54, 100, 100, 100M, 100S, 106. Continuing on down with 3000s, 3000 race car, another 3000 race car, SMO 93B, low spa car, and finally a VJ8. So we've got a pretty good set of Austin Healeys. I love Bugattis, but I've never owned a Bugatti. So we have Bugattis from here to here. And then over here, Mr. Hamilton is doing very well right now. But here we have an Alfa Romeo, we have a Ferrari, we have a Maserati, and we have two Mercedes-Benz, all of which Juan Manuel Fangio, the fellow that's standing next to number 4, won the world championship in. Yeah. So it didn't make any difference what kind of car it was, he was going to win. Down here, these are our Fossil Vegas. Down here at the bottom, these are all Bentleys, and then all of those over there are Rolls Royces.
How long did it take you to collect all these, Bill?
I started collecting in 1963. Now, sometimes funny things happen. I had one of these, and it fell and broke. So I turned it into this one, which is a 100S. And the driver has a beard, and he has the Healey book in the car with him. So I have a lot of fun with things.
Yeah, I can see that.
There's Mercedes over there. And that's me when I was a young man with my wife and a Cooper.
Yep.
I think that probably should wrap it up for the moment, but I would like to show you my friend Ron.
Hi, Ron.
How you doing?
Not bad for a young guy. Not bad for a young guy.
Absolutely a marvel for a mechanic. That is me at Laguna Seca, and you'll notice there's a Ferrari behind me. I want to thank you so much for having me on. It was fun, and I love my Healeys. I love my time in Australia, and I'm going to say good night.
I would like to personally thank Bill Ingham for setting us up with the interview with Bill Emerson. It's probably one of the most incredible stories that I've ever heard. I don't know where the guy got his enthusiasm or the time to do what he's done, but it's an absolute credit to the man, and I hope that it's a credit to his wife and all his friends. So thank you very much for the interview, Gordon. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bill, for doing that. And we'll just have time to get the answers from Prue to the quiz.
Terry,
Yes,
thanks,
Rod.
from the rest of the general members, thanks, Bill. That was really well handled. I mean, that was a great video, and well handled by you. It's hard to interview someone you don't really know, and I think you've done a great.
No, it's very good.
I must say, Rod, it was probably the easiest interview as you've seen. The guy could just talk about anything and everything. He was so easy to interview. It was an absolute pleasure. And we've actually become really good friends since then. It's really good.
Yeah, okay.
It's great to do it.
Well done.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you, Bill. Over to you, Prue.
Do you want to tell everyone that I'm going to be doing an interview with Jim and Faye Richards this Monday night coming?
Oh, yes.
Yep. So it's all set up for next Monday night. It should be interesting because it's really on your suggestion, mainly about Faye and her life as a support role for Jim.
Yeah,
so it should be good.
Jim's wife, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that interview that Bill's going to do with Jim and Faye Richards will be on the that'll be the mid-month meeting, which will be Thursday, the 19th of November, in 2 weeks' time. So we'll look forward to that.
Terry, Bill, I don't know whether you know, Jim and Faye Richards have a son, Jason, with Down syndrome, and well known, and we actually see them occasionally. A Down Syndrome Association get together at the Dorset Gardens Hotel, and Faye has not only did she work in the business while he did that, but she also had a lot of work bringing up Jason, which Jim acknowledges was mostly her work. So there's another layer to Faye Richards and Jim that you may not be aware of.
Yeah, that's right. I'm lucky enough to have known Jim since about when he first came out from New Zealand, about 1979 or something like that. So we go back a fair while. Got some funny stories to tell. Hopefully you'll take them very well.
Okay, we look forward to that. How are you going, Prue? You right?
Yep.
I'm ticking, Prue, I'm ticking.
Good. Chicken or chicken?
Ticking. Yep.
Love that picture, Donald.
No, I didn't get that one. Yep.
Yeah. Got that one?
Yep. Yep. No, didn't get, no, I'll call it a bitch from hell, so I never got that one. Yep.
The White House.
Yep. I guessed that one and I got it. Okay. No, didn't get that.
Yeah, didn't get that.
Yep. Oh, wow.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, Prue,
No worries.
again for that. That's really good. So that wraps up our meeting for tonight. But if you'd like to keep talking, Gordon will leave it, we'll open it up and unmute everyone. And you can chat, or you can leave, or you can go to bed or whatever. Thank you all for attending. And we look forward to seeing you either at the lunch next week or at the next Zoom meeting or Sandown. Oh no, you can't go unless you're an entry. Won't be able to go, will you, Rod? Unless you're entry.
Well, that was the rule for July.
Yeah.
Before we went second lockdown. So I've got my team Healey and supporters email list, so I'll send something out. If spectators are allowed, I'll let you know. I can assume you're not, and I'll tell people if they want to come. I very much doubt it.
Yeah.
All
right.
Hardy's just told me today that I need 2 new rear main leaf springs. Anyone got any ideas? Who do they go for springs these days?
Yeah, I had a guy in New South Wales chasing me for a pair of original 104 springs, because apparently now you can't get original springs because they've all gone to metric.
Yeah.
And if you want to have an actual concourse car, you have to have the imperial springs, not the metric ones.
Yeah.
But I don't think anyone's going to notice any difference as far as...
Well, Hardy was saying today that most of everything that's coming into Australia now is, even when it comes from UK, it's all Chinese, and he won't put it in. So I've got to look for someone who still does springs. If anyone knows of anyone, I'd like to know.
Bill.
Yeah.
Bill. Moorabbin Spring Works makes their own. They've been around for years and years and years.
Okay.
I think Levinsville Road.
Fantastic. Thanks, Russ.
Bill, they're just off Levinsville Road. I can't remember the name of the street, but I've had 2 sets of springs reset by Moorabbin Springs over the years. One for the first Healey I had, one for my white car, and they've done a good job both times. While I'm talking to you, Bill, thank you very much for that interview. It was fantastic, and I did enjoy your article in the hundreds and thousands as well. Well done.
Thanks very much, Bill. It was a pleasure doing it, actually. Yeah. And thanks very much for Gordon. Linda put a lot of work and a lot of effort into that. And it was a bit sad at the end. Ron, who was only 80 years of age, his mate, did something with the camera, and we couldn't work out we lost the sound, we lost a lot of stuff. So it was a bit of a shame at the end because it just fizzled out. But Gordon, thank you very much. You did a great job. Thanks, everybody. I'm checking out.
Yeah.
We're going to have a cup of tea. So thanks a lot, and I'll let you know how I go with the Jim Richards one.
Yep, very good. Thanks,
Faye
Bill.
Richards, rather. Okay. And Paul, were you going to send me through some questions, or is he gone?
Still here.
Paul.
Here, Bill. Yes, I'll do that in the next day or so, and on with the comments from everyone else. Wonderful job tonight, fantastic, and it was a great little one from young Tom.
Wasn't it? Wasn't it a beauty? Yeah. Secondary college. That's his first school project. What a ripper!
A really good night. Thanks, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Night.
Great.
Good night, everyone.
Hey, Richard. In in your magazine article, you asked about 104s with pistons sitting proud of the block. Have you got any other answers on that? Because I had mine rebuilt a couple of years ago, and when we pulled the head off, it was the same.
All right. No, I think all I can deduce from what I found is that the guy who rebuilt it back in the 90s was trying to increase the compression ratio, and the head has been modified. It's got large valves, alloy head with 62cc chambers, and then but with the standard 104 pistons, you're not going to get up into the 9s. And so he did get up to about 9.5 to 1 compression ratio by machining down the block and then relieving the head to allow the pistons through the gasket and just into the head. Obviously the ring's still in the block, it's just a piston crown. And so he's got it up to, I think in my article I actually made a mathematical error. I said 7.5, but it's actually up to 9.5 to 1. So everyone who's seen it has said it's unorthodox.
Richard, some of the Sprite people regularly do that to increase what they call squish and get a better circulation just before detonation. But you've got to be very careful. The racing Sprite engine that I bought was like that and gave me trouble, and I had to fix it.
Yeah, this is, I think, assuming all the bearings are in good condition, it would have come within sort of 0.5 millimetre of hitting the head. That strikes me as pretty close. I wonder what that knocking was.
Yeah, well, mine wasn't anything that drastic, but when we pulled it apart recently, it was the first time it had been rebuilt or pulled apart in, I forget now, it's probably at least 30 years. When my father-in-law had the car, he had it done, and he's long gone, and there's no one around with any record of whether the car was like that when it was rebuilt back then or what. So that sort of remains a mystery. But we ended up, because I'd blown a head gasket, which is pretty good after 30 years anyway. But we ended up changing it back so that they sit proud now. So I think. But there was no other fancy business in the ports or anything in my one.
Right. Yeah, they've obviously it's interesting, this idea of this squish. It's been mentioned to me that I think I was trying to think who it was. Oh, it was Jeremy Welsh. I was talking to him in the UK, and I sent him a photograph of it, and he made a similar comment that actually that's not too, he said it was unorthodox, but he said actually it's not bad because of this squish effect. I hadn't appreciated it was to get the circulation. I'm planning, in order just to keep the budget somewhere sensible, I'm going to plan to reuse the head. It's got to have a bit of welding done on it, just to rebuild around one of the water ports. But the porting's been done nicely. It's got reasonable size inlet valves in it. So I think it's good for another 10 or 20 years. See me out.
Richard, a couple of the engine builders that I've spoken to said that you have to be at 10.5 to 1 compression ratio. Otherwise, you're wasting horsepower.
Okay.
And my Sprite's at 10.5, and the Healey's pretty close to that as well.
Right. Okay.
And I run on 98 unleaded.
Yep.
Ultimate or Vortex, and it's fine.
Oh, brilliant. Well, 10.5 to 1 it is. Sold to the highest bidder.
Good luck.
I mean, that means I don't have to find any more capacity in the sauna head. That's good.
So, Richard, you're aiming to break 2 minutes at Phillip Island, obviously.
Well, that's just getting to Phillip Island.
Oh, right.
Hello, Adam.
I've had a lot of feedback from Shane. So I don't think he's feeling threatened somehow. But no, it's we'll get there. But yeah, I'm sorry, I'm going to miss November and December, I expect.
Yeah, that's right. We'll start afresh next year. If you finish there, can Peter Edwards, what on earth is that behind you in your red photo? What's someone strangling there? Did you catch that? Hang on, you've got to unmute yourself, Peter. I'm dying to ask. Yeah, what is that?
Is that better?
Yeah.
Well, it's a big fish, obviously. I think you figured that out.
Well, after a while, it looked like a cat that you got by the throat until I realised the body was big.
Big fish that I caught up in the western top end of Western Australia.
Oh wow, that's good.
And we ate.
And all that, of course.
Sorry. It was delicious.
Yeah. Okay. Oh,
How many kilos was that?
Sorry.
It looks like a big fish. How heavy was it?
I can't tell you the weight actually. I'm sorry, I forgot. But it was we went fishing off of an 18-passenger, cruise boat up there. One of life's best experiences, and I'm sure Rod, you've been up in that area, you would know all about it.
Only on the Dusty Gibb River Road, Peter. I didn't go anywhere near the water. Yeah.
But you've got to do it. You've got to do it. It's just absolutely fabulous. I'm not a fisherman, but even I can catch fish up there. So
maybe that's where I go. Yeah, I'm not a fisherman either. I'm just watching Dave Thompson's going to come in and give you grief here. He suddenly decided to put his video on. What are you going to say, David?
Tomo, where are you?
There.
I'm here now. I've been busy.
Where have you been, Tomo? You're all dressed up.
I forgot about the meeting. I've got a pretty short memory, I tell you.
Let me tell you all, at 4 o'clock this afternoon, Paul McPherson and myself spoke to Tomo. Now, you make sure you go to you would switch on. Tomo said, I will.
At 4 o'clock. That's a worry.
Well, I'm here. I told you I was going to come.
So I can tell you the golf course is looking fantastic at Hillsford, but are you guys allowed to come in yet because they're playing? I haven't seen you go in there.
Yeah, we were there today.
Oh, right. Okay.
And Monday.
Oh, okay. Because last time they wouldn't let you come unless you're a 3777. But that's good. Yeah, I'm under a bit of pressure to play, but I don't like demeaning my friends, making look like a fool, so I probably won't. So,
well, you could join that. You could join Paul.
I might have to start again, I think.
Come along for lessons with Paul.
Paul, are you having lessons?
He's having lessons again, yeah.
Are they working?
It's been a long way off.
Are the lessons working?
Better
be kind to your mum.
Anyway, what time's the meeting go till?
Well, you're at the tail end of it, Tomo.
Yeah, well, lucky I made it, I think. I've been busy.
What? Doing what?
Oh, nothing. Busy doing nothing like all us retired bods.
I'm just totally honoured that you've got dressed up for the meeting tonight. You're.
This is the shirt I had on the golf.
Yeah.
You didn't see it because I had my top on.
Didn't see that.
My iPad's got smell version, so I can. You should have changed it, David. It's a bit
All we know is it was very cold out there today.
Yeah. We had power out today on a pole replacement right opposite our front gate. So, Adam's looking over my shoulder. I've got to go. He's put the kettle on, but we had to sit in the caravan all day, didn't we, mate?
Well, not much.
He wasn't happy. Wasn't happy.
Oh, because of the power.
No, I am. You are now, but you
Yeah.
Good to see you, Adam.
We're getting you. He looks happy.
We watched the Oaks sitting in the caravan. So, but hey, next week we're towing at the Beechworth to catch up with the grandchildren, which we haven't seen for God knows how long. In their new house they finished building, so we're excited, aren't we?
Yeah. Yes.
On that, I'm going to say goodnight. See you all. Bye bye.
Okay. Cheers.
See you, Rod. See you, Adam.
See you guys.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Okay.
Yes. Bye all. Thank you all.
See you, Macca. See you, Tomo.
Good night. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.